Welcome to part 6 of 6 in our series on UEFA Financial Fair Play regulations. Based on who you support, the last video would have told you a lot about whether FFP works for your club or not. But let's take one final look from a more general perspective at whether or not FFP is good for football, whilst covering some of the most crucial points from the other videos in the series. We hope you've enjoyed the in-depth look at FFP, and we would love to know what you think. Please leave a comment below. In the last video, we asked you when a team outside of Europe's top 5 leagues last won the UEFA Champions League. It was FC Porto of Portugal in 2004, led of course by the special one, Jose Mourinho. That little bit of trivia goes to show the financial gap that has been growing between football's elite clubs and leagues in recent years. Since the inception of FFP in 2011, the Champions League has only been won by 5 clubs from 3 top leagues: Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Chelsea, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Whether or not UEFA have really sought to benefit football for all is unknown. An immoral rationale may have formed FFP, and its legality is far from set in stone. For better or worse, FFP has had a massive impact on the industry that is European football, and therefore the game on the whole for players, fans, clubs and owners. Forming an opinion on whether or not FFP is objectively good or bad for football is very difficult, given the complexity and the wide-ranging nature of its aims and performance. FFP regulations have sought to achieve different things, and it has affected various strands of the game with wide-ranging results and symptoms. Undoubtedly, there are positive and negative aspects of FFP, but on the whole, will its impact and legacy be looked on positively or negatively? FFP has set out to eradicate insolvency amongst European football clubs. Facts and figures suggest that these aims and objectives are not only being achieved, but also that the financial health of clubs on the whole has massively increased, and that there has been a halt in the trend of big football clubs falling from grace due to financial mismanagement. Clubs will continue to have better and worse financial periods, but hopefully FFP has put an end to casualties like Rangers. For this, FFP should be commended. We have seen whilst looking at the case of Rangers how the demise of one football club can impact negatively on an entire league. FFP has, however, set out to eradicate the upstart football club, the new sugar daddy funded club, the billionaire benefactor owner. UEFA have acted systematically against the trend that saw the rise of PSG, Chelsea and Man City, and with that, against the rise of competition in domestic and European football. If this was the plan, FFP may have had the desired effect. There has not been another Man City since the inception of FFP, and it's hard to see how there could be again. Maybe Newcastle will change that. UEFA will not openly say that FFP has been designed to crystallise the football hierarchy, of course. However, recent years have shown FFP has put an end to the Abramovich upstart football owner, and middle-level clubs breaking into the top band of elites is super difficult. Serious questions have been raised regarding the legality of FFP. It has been argued that FFP contravenes EU free movement and competition laws. This is probably true, but there is definitely legal ambiguity, and the grey areas of the law cover UEFA with at least a significant defence. The impact that FFP would have on competition, and the idea that it would polarise the bigger and smaller clubs significantly for years to come, has caused massive concern. Ensuring clubs can only spend what they generate will enable the big clubs to continue to spend massive sums of money that smaller and medium clubs will never be able to compete with. We have looked at how important spending is in regards to being successful on the pitch, and how that leads to further revenue. And so whilst the top teams will be locked into a cycle of earning big money and winning trophies, the majority of clubs will be scrambling to compete at an entirely different level below them. This is bad for competition, and as well as being legally questionable, this is challenging for the integrity of the game and the fervour of the average football fan going forward. Clubs functioning on their revenue instead of becoming debt-ridden to the point of liquidation is sensible, but perhaps this can be done without prohibiting willing benefactor owners from paying off club debts at their will in order to transform their club. The game will miss the upstart in terms of how it creates competition on the pitch and financially benefits the industry. As is common with many regulations, legal loopholes can emerge. But when they can only be manipulated by clubs with the wealthiest owners, FFP appears even more unequal. City have allegedly bent the rules of FFP by moving money through their lucrative ownership group, a symptom of FFP that is unequivocally benefiting the super wealthy clubs under this specific type of ownership. Whether this was an intentional symptom of FFP is very difficult to establish, but it does seem to suit both the big clubs and UEFA. Maybe it's just a coincidence. We also mentioned Chelsea's recent financial tactics. They signed players on long-term contracts and used amortization to spread these costs over the years of those deals. That way, for an example, an £80 million signing on an 8-year contract is actually only costing the club £10 million on the balance books per year. A cunning plan to bend the rules from Chelsea's point of view, but another piece of evidence that the rule bending is for the super rich. And if that is the conclusion, what is FFP good for? UEFA talks about benefiting clubs economically and financially, and although stopping insolvency will obviously have a positive effect and is necessary, stopping new rich owners looking to inject cash into the game isn't necessary and is a direct block to propelling clubs to new economic heights. UEFA deserve credit for removing the likes of community spending, women's and youth football from the break-even equation. Encouraging clubs to invest in really important areas that they may not have before will obviously have a positive impact on the game. On the whole, however, it's hard to disagree with the argument that FFP, whether intentionally or not, will crystallise the financial hierarchy of European football, damaging competition and the ability for new streams of capital injection into lower levels of the game. This will not benefit the vast majority of clubs, only a select few, and we believe that competition laws have rightly been brought into question as FFP will polarise clubs by way of systematic inequality. The most unfortunate consequence regarding a lack of competition in the game and a lack of money flowing down the leagues is the impact on the everyday football fan and on the game as a whole. It has been shown how European football has globally dominated both wealth and interest, and on a more human level, it is a sport with links to culture, community, and identity as much as any other on the planet. Damage being done to the game is damage being done to the fans, and UEFA's own sentiments regarding FFP being a gift to football fans now seem to hold a haunting mendacity. UEFA may have shown some flexibility in amending FFP regulations, but we're not convinced they've done enough. Despite some clear benefits of FFP, the key arguments and evidence mean that it is hard to look past as little more than a political vehicle to protect their own interests that is legally fragile and perhaps morally corrupt. Manchester City have faced over 100 new charges for financial misdemeanours, but this isn't the first time they've been called up for rule breaking, and the last time they were not docked points nor banned from competition. They were given slaps on the wrist in the form of small fines. So why would this time be any different? In fact, City were also punished, albeit less severely, by UEFA in 2013, but they were refunded 2/3 of the fine. Chelsea's clever amortization policy wasn't rule breaking either. They just found a loophole in the rules. UEFA have acted accordingly, and from now on there will be a limit to the amount of years payments can be spread over. If we look at the method behind FFP, we can suggest that some parts of these rule changes worked, while others certainly have not. The clubs not going bust is a good thing, but clubs not being able to grow and challenge is a bad thing. Regarding the motivation behind FFP, it is perhaps the case that UEFA felt that their monopoly on the game was being threatened, alongside some of Europe's top clubs, and so in a bid to appease them and remain the power of European football, they put FFP together to protect those interests, with the disguise of a rule change for the benefit of all. We have spoken about the obvious blocks on investment for clubs, but shown how the likes of Man City and PSG might be able to manufacture ways around this, or how Madrid or Man U will always make more income because of their size. Simply put, we think FFP is more unjust than it is just, and perhaps it was designed with this in mind. How can an owner be able to make money from a club but not put money into the club? It doesn't seem right when you think of it that way. We have to watch where the game is going and question why these big moves are happening, whilst analysing how they are affecting our sport. The crystallisation of the hierarchy to us seems obvious. The same teams are winning the league, winning the European Cup, and buying the top players year on year. Many positives and negatives have been discussed, and we won't claim that FFP has ruined football, but we don't think it has had a great effect, and it might take more excitement away from the game in years to come. Do you agree with FFP? Would you abolish it altogether? What do you think and why? Let us know in the comments.